there is a giant new leak for the Resident Evil 4 remake that talks about how different this game is going to be, and I kind of want to read it because honestly, I'm just so hyped. What's up gamers, DreamcastGuy here, and as many of you know, my three favorite things in the entire universe are Final Fantasy, Resident Evil, and taking your mom on respectful dates. Okay, now we're done with just a little bit of silliness, let's dig into the craziness. So this is a new article that was just published on Fanbyte by Imran Khan. Imran Khan used to work at Game Informer for years and years and years. This guy has a lot of strange sources all over the place, but even despite the fact that his track record of leaks has been pretty concrete, he starts this article off by basically just saying, things can change. Some of the stuff may be different. The game itself is still just early in development, but it sounds like the game is going to be quite a drastic departure. And most importantly, before we even get to it, it sounds like the game is going to be much more terrifying. The last couple Resident Evil games have been this interesting balancing act. There was a surprisingly big chunk of people who were saying that Resident Evil 7 was too scary, so they decided to make Resident Evil 8 a lot more friendly to newcomers, whereas the Resident Evil 2 remake and the Resident Evil 3 remake, I feel like they focused more on action. It seems like Capcom is trying to mess with the features, mess with the functions, try and find that perfect balance of fun and fear. And let's go into this because it sounds like this game is definitely going to be more scary. Despite the fact that it's not been officially confirmed yet, a remake of Resident Evil 4, considered by some to be the best video game of all time, has been traveling the rumor circles for some time. The story goes that Capcom, emboldened by the promising milestones of Resident Evil 2 during its development, started working on a matching remake for Resident Evil 4. That rumor is true according to our sources. The game is in development and is set to be revealed this year if all goes according to plan. Now what's funny is that even though there's not an official announcement of it, a couple years ago, like I think it was late 2021, there was a big gigantic data breach over at Capcom, and a lot of internal slides were just posted on the internet. Basically, these hackers got inside all these personal emails, personal postings, and some very important infographics. And one of the things they saw, which I looked at, I'll admit it, they basically had this big breakdown of future projects, things that were just internally very obvious knowledge that the outside world doesn't know yet. And one of them that's definitely the coolest to me was the Resident Evil 4 remake. So even though they're not talking about it, the game is real. Even though we haven't seen a single screenshot, the game is real, which to me is extremely exciting. All right, now let's get back to the article itself. The title was originally being developed by M2, the people that were working on the Resident Evil 3 remake. Capcom had apparently hoped by greenlighting the project that they could entice Shinji Mikami, the original director of RE4, now at Tango Gameworks, to work alongside his old friend Tatsue Minami. This was actually part of the reasoning behind the name M2 itself. Mikami was reportedly intrigued by the offer but felt that Tango would fall apart without him and eventually declined. This is so interesting. After some mixed responses to the Resident Evil 3 remake, Capcom shifted the project internally and put the Resident Evil 2 remake project leads on charge of it. This is so fascinating. Essentially what this means is that they were trying to make Resident Evil 4 remake just better Resident Evil 4. They were going to bring back the original visionary Shinji Mikami. That's insane. So Shinji Mikami, I've had the pleasure of meeting this guy. He is practically the messiah to me. I love horror so much. This guy practically invented modern day survival horror by making Resident Evil. This guy made Resident Evil. He made Resident Evil 4. Like, he is the dude who's made some of the best, most iconic scares ever. It seems so logical that Capcom would try and get him back involved directly. And honestly, I respect that. It's cool to me that they're trying to do this right. And even more so, it's interesting that Shinji Mikami turned down the position. I mean, it makes sense. He has his own studio with Tango Gameworks. It seems a little bit weird, like almost a demotion to take a director job after you've been a head of studio job. But still, God, I kind of wish he'd done it. Now, this is the part where the leak starts to become much more insane. If I could be quite honest, this is the part that gets me the most excited for the project, even though we haven't seen it yet. From that foundation, Capcom is no longer looking for a strict scene-by-scene remake of Resident Evil 4, lauded though it may be. While the original title began with the rookie cop turned Secret Service agent Leon S. Kennedy arriving in a European village at daytime and slowly gunning his way all the way through the bad guys over the course of 24 hours, the remake adjusts that timeline. In the Resident Evil 4 remake, the famous village introduction set piece takes place at night, as does a decent portion of the rest of the game. So it sounds like they want the game to be more spooky. Like, the game is actually very, very well lit. Like, to its credit and to its detriment, I feel like this was just during that era where you didn't want to have all those inky shadows. It was one of those time periods where the PlayStation 2, the GameCube, the original Xbox, that was still during the time period where being able to see the enemies off in the distance was an incredible technical feat, and I think they wanted to show that. So being able to now, where we can do anything graphically and visually, now having really well-placed darkness and shadows can evoke a lot more fear in current day audiences. It sounds like they are trying to update this. The reason for this time change isn't arbitrary. Capcom wants to adjust the tone of the remake into something spookier, taking direct inspiration from discarded Resident Evil 4 demos. That footage, which was used in early GameCube preview reels, featured Leon wandering a lonely castle, getting possessed by black smoke, and fighting off living dolls, as well as other ghostly manifestations. Oh my god, they're actually gonna do it. There is this original teaser that goes across the internet. It's practically an urban legend at this point, called the Hookman demo. There was a prototype of Resident Evil 4 where Leon was going to be sick, he was going to be having hallucinations, and he was going to be battling both real monsters and also his inner demons. It looks incredibly spooky. It is incredibly demented. Everybody, like every super hardcore Resident Evil fan, has begged to play that game, to see what it actually is, to see what it has played out like. They're actually going to do that. They're basically taking the tone of the Hookman demo and putting it in the actual Resident Evil 4. I'm going to lose my mind. I'm going to actually lose it. Some changes to the story, such as giving side characters bigger roles and more screen time, are also planned. Capcom wants to flesh out other aspects of the game. One of focus... Oh my god, I'm about to lose it. Capcom plans to flesh out other aspects of the game as well, such as one focus, which is the Assignment Ada, which was a short campaign starring Leon's rival and sometimes lover, spy extraordinaire Ada Wong. The GameCube version of this mini-campaign did not feature much in the way of story, which allowed players to go through the game's side areas as Ada Wong while collecting Las Plagas samples. It's largely been considered as non-canon bonus that does not take place in any sense of the real game's storyline. This entire thing sounds so freaking fun. It sounds like a reward to the fans, and this article ends off by basically saying that they're planning on revealing it in early 2022. We'll see if that actually happens. A lot of things are now getting delayed and pushed back. I also feel like because so many great games are coming back to back, sometimes it's almost scary to try and put out an announcement because you don't want to get steamrolled by something like Elden Ring. I am so freaking excited. This is the best timeline. As a Resident Evil fan, this is the best possible news I could ever freaking hear. But what do you guys think about it? Please tell me your thoughts in the comments down below. Do you want to see a changed version of Resident Evil 4 that manages to be more scary, or do you want it to stick to the original freaking tone? Tell me your thoughts in the comments down below. Please like this video, subscribe if you haven't already, and of course, keep dreaming. Thanks so much for watching that video. If you want to see something else, you can always click this link to see what I put up last, or, subscribe and see what's coming up next. Also, I promise that whatever I do, it'll try not to suck.